The movies we're going to talk about today are far from perfect and even farther from masterpieces, but we think they deserve just a little bit more love than what Rotten Tomatoes would suggest. This is I Have No Title, Not Much podcast. We are your hosts, Tyler.
And Chris.
So I guess the movie we start with is what got me on the topic, and that is Hellboy the Crooked Man, because super low critic score, not quite as low audience score, but all in all, it wasn't really that bad of a movie. The biggest complaints I seen from it was it looks low budget.
Which is, if it's slightly lower budget.
Yeah,
then...
I mean, they're like, oh, it looks too low budget for like a bigger movie. And there's some things talking about the horror aspects of it, which, yeah, it's got some horror stuff in it, but I wouldn't consider it a horror movie because let's call it what it is. It's a comic book movie.
Yeah, and like any of the Hellboy movies are like horror adjacent because they have those elements to them, but they're not really like, they don't go full on.
Yeah, but I do agree that some of the effects in the movie, like when CG is there, it's kind of jarring because it is very clearly CG and it does kind of take you back, but I don't think that's enough to give it that low of a score. I don't remember exactly what it was.
So not like Scorpion Rock? Is it Scorpion Rock bad?
No, it's not Scorpion Rock bad. It's just...
because that was really bad.
It's not that the models are bad. It's just they feel out of place compared to the rest of the settings. Because this is set in like a old, like 1930s, 20s Appalachia. So when you see CG, it's like, oh. Especially since the actor playing Hellboy is like actually in makeup and costume. It's even more jarring when you see him fight. But yeah, overall, I think the story was good enough. The acting was good enough. It's certainly better than the David Harbour-led Hellboy we got a couple years ago, because at least this movie knew what it wanted to be. That movie was all over the place.
Yeah.
Again, not as good as Del Toro's, but...
which the David Harbour one got a lot of heavy criticism, too.
I think there's
probably for those reasons you cited.
I think there's a lot of studio interference in that one, too. So plot-wise, all over the place. Tone-wise, all over the place.
It really felt like at times it wanted to be a comedy.
Yeah. It's like, did it want to be a comedy? Did it want to be hard action? Did it want to be... it didn't know. This one, it's not like that. It's actually watchable if you can get past the CG stuff. Again, not a masterpiece. Again, not as good as Del Toro's. But does it deserve the 40% or whatever it's sitting at? No.
Damn!
Yeah, it's less than 50. Or maybe the audience score is just over 50, but like the critic score was less. So take average below 50. Like it's not that bad. You can watch it. So we'll move on, focus on some other movies.
Okay.
Because I don't have a whole lot to say other than like, yeah, I get what you're saying of why it got a low score, but I don't think you need to give it that low because it's not that bad.
Okay. I'll start off with an easy one. A counterculture's beloved classic from Hunter S. Thompson, from a book by Hunter S. Thompson, while he was still alive, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
I'm actually surprised this one has a low score.
What do you think it is? You don't know what it is, right?
I would say at least like maybe the 60s or
51 like critic score, 89 audience score.
Okay, so the audience, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's right about where it should be. Like that's what I would agree with.
I had a couple friends in high school, they were like obsessed with this movie.
Yeah. it's wild. And Terry Gilliam, it's par for the course for his career. Johnny Depp lived with Hunter S. Thompson's famous story. He moved into his basement and Hunter S. Thompson shaved Johnny's head to match his as he was going to, really replicate his performance, and probably went too far. And by that, I don't mean like overboard rubbery face. It's just he probably wasn't capturing what Hunter S. Thompson was in the book more so as what Hunter S. Thompson was at that time, which was far more drug-addled and
For anyone who doesn't
damaged.
know anything about Hunter S. Thompson, just go look up some stuff. Like, this man is legit crazy.
Yeah. And also extremely inside, and his books are legendary. Like the things that he did for the counterculture I aforementioned. So this movie is like a wild romp. You don't know what's real and what's not, and you could even say it's told from a unreliable narrator because they're not perceiving reality for what it is, and it shows that. Quite different from Where the Buffalo Roam when Bill Murray played Hunter S. Thompson. That movie seemed to drag a bit for me. I think that this one might not be as faithful to the book as far as like following any sort of narrative, but maybe sometimes that's the point. Whereas Where the Buffalo Roam was probably very faithful, but felt like a bit dull at times. I love both of their performances, though. Bill Murray did a great job performing him a little bit more straight-laced, as back then Hunter was probably less damaged. So anyway,
didn't Johnny Depp play Hunter S. Thompson in another movie?
He did.
Well?
It was more of a loose adaptation of one of his books. The damn it, I can't remember the name. But in that one, he did not shave his head. Just looks like Johnny Depp, and that was when he his career up, because that was the movie he met Amber Heard on.
Oh,
yeah.
What
was that
right
called?
There.
So yes, I was shocked to see. Part of me is like, do I get it that the critics would hate this movie? In a way, yeah. So thoughts on that?
I don't know. I'm more inclined with the audience score on that one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've not watched it a whole lot, and I've definitely not watched it recently. Maybe the last time I did watch it was with those friends that were obsessed with it in high school. So I'd probably give it a little bit lower than the audience score, but not by much.
I think that's fair.
I mean, the White Rabbit scene alone, where he throws the, was it an orange or grapefruit at the guys?
Yeah.
I think that right there, the scene alone deserves more than whatever the critics gave it.
All right, and maintaining our unprofessionality, I'm not going to cite the name of the other movie. So, moving on.
Okay. Next movie is the second Highlander movie. I know people talked about it being bad.
They do. At length. You could do a whole podcast on how bad the Highlander The Quickening is.
All right. But my reasoning is it's got a 0% critic score.
Did it just not get reviewed?
Oh.
Where they were like, I'd rather get into a fist fight than watch this movie. So just no.
No, because there's another movie that I'm going to use as my, I don't know, evidence against it having a low score, because it didn't have a critic rating at all. But this one just had a 0. And I think an audience of 37%. And a lot of the things I've seen was convoluted plot. And kinda is, yes. And maybe some continuity issues from the first
Maybe.
I mean, things get weird when you introduce time travel.
That can happen.
But as far as the main villain, did he make the right choice? No. But do I think that detracts from the movie? I don't think so, because that is very much in line with his character. Because trying to kill Duncan, even though he has decided to die, or there's Duncan...
No, this was Connor.
Connor, right. Duncan's the one from the show.
Yeah.
Connor. Him deciding to kill Connor shows two things. One, he's paranoid to lose the power he has already when they sent him off to whatever. And he was afraid that Connor was going to decide last minute to come back and try to fight him. And it also proved that at some point he loses in the future, because if Connor is the last immortal left, that means at some point somebody killed this guy. And so to him, going and taking out Connor now can possibly cement his rise in the future. So to me, that makes sense. And I think sometimes they wanted to be too much comedy on this.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like when Sean Connery goes to get a new outfit.
Yeah. And some of the one-liners from Michael Ironside.
Oh my God, yeah. There was like one-liners galore. It's been so long since I've seen this movie.
But, I mean, the fight scenes were, just as good as the first one.
You put a sword in somebody's hands and I'm down, honestly. And I gotta be honest with you for this. This movie is really bad. And I don't think it deserves a 0. But I have a complicated history with Highlander. See, when I was a kid, I didn't have older friends. I don't have any siblings. And my dad was a bit older, so he listened to a lot of old country, and like even some, like a lot of the more modern rock he listened to was like Roy Orbison, very old even at the time. So the stuff my mom liked was stuff from when she was a kid, the Jackson 5, the Beach Boys, stuff like that. And I still have an appreciation for all those things, but it wasn't contemporary, and a lot of the stuff that people I went to school were listening to was like Vanilla Ice, MC Hammer, which did influence me, and I listened to that because of that, because I wanted to try and fit in. But it wasn't me. And I was visiting some family, and my aunt, I went down late one night and was talking to her, and she was watching the show, and I finished watching it with her, and these guys were sword fighting. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Like, what's this guy do? Does he have superpowers or something? And she was like, no, he's immortal. That's kind of it. Like, he can be killed, but you have to cut his head off. And I was like, oh, that's kind of gruesome and freaks me out a bit. But I finished the show, and then in the credits, this song came on. This song, like, music I'd never heard or could fathom even existed, by this band called Queen, which at the time, ironically, for me was 4 guys. I thought was interesting. So I went back home after the month was over. I came back home and I was like, I need to go to the store and get a tape, look it up. And so I got tape of A Kind of Magic, which is not Queen's best album, nor is this the best Highlander film. But it began my journey that significantly altered my life. Who knows where my life would have led to, because after that I got really into like exploring the rest of their catalog, which led me into looking into Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses, and a lot of the modern to classic rock at the time, which led into the alternative rock that would lead into the 90s, and on from there, which led to my love of music in general. That's led me to all genres. And yeah, I started playing music, and I met friends and people and did things that I never would have done had I just not watched the last half hour of one Highlander episode one day. And that also left me with a love for Highlander. I started watching the show and watched the rest of the films that were available at the time. There were 2. One was a cult classic, and the other one was awful. That's the one we're talking about right now.
Yeah. Okay, here's my evidence for giving it a higher score. Okay, I was scrolling through Tubi to see what they added for the start of the month. One of the movies is called Rectuma. The premise of this movie is this guy gets some kind of infection from Mexican butt-humping frogs that causes his ass to grow to 20 feet, start framing him for murders. That movie has a higher score than Highlander 2. Are you going to tell me that a movie about some guy's giant ass framing him for murder deserves a higher score than Highlander 2?
Case closed. I mean, I submit at least that. I don't know how who gave that a positive to middling review that gave it that much? Yeah.
I don't know, but like I said, 0% critical score for Highlander. I think 37% critic score or fan score.
See, and that's the thing. That's my problem with Rotten Tomatoes in general. Yeah. I'm looking at it right now, 25 reviews. So all 25 reviews at least below 50% negative, which gives it its tomato meter. But this other movie, like there's older films that received generally negative reviews when they first came out, but we can't leave them up there like that. So we just do an aggregate of how many critic scores would they have like compiled from, for like Casablanca or Wizard of Oz or something from at the time. Yeah. So if there's like 200 reviews, I'm going to just use that because Wizard of Oz is pretty old. So I'm going to go to Wizard of Oz. How many reviews do you think that they cultivated from like 1937? Do you think it was 170? 170 newspapers. And I guess, were there like radio reviews? Did they get like, have you seen the new talkie, The Wizard of Oz, in theaters now?
Wizard of Oz did get a second release, so yeah, it could be.
You're telling me Highlander 2's never been in a theater for another time somewhere? Somewhere.
Not on like a major, hey, we're releasing this as a blockbuster
See,
release.
I think this is bullshit. I think that this is coming up with loopholes to include more reviews. They should be locked somewhere, or certain movies should be able to have like reviews added to them. If it's, I don't know. It just feels like that's an excuse to raise the level, because it's got a 98%, and for some reason 89% audience score. Like, it's not, The Wizard of Oz is not above 90 for like, just people hate Thanksgiving that much. They sit down at the end of the day after arguing with all their racist family, and they're like, Wizard of Oz again? Doesn't NBC have anything else?
Not until Christmas when they start showing A Christmas Story and A Wonderful Life.
24 hours a day.
But maybe I'm wrong. I have not watched Rectuma. Maybe it is better than Highlander. So I'll say this right now. If we get 100 likes on this video and you guys can help us get up to triple digits subscriber count,
We will Clockwork Orange style force Tyler to watch that movie.
like no shit, I was going to actually say I was going to say, even if we had to watch it Clockwork Orange style, we will do.
I will get the
episode.
Ludovico machine that holds your eyes open, and I will be the one to drop Visine to keep your eyes liquidated.
Who's going to keep your eyes open?
Open, yeah. I'll have a second eyedropper to spoon feed you with. You stick your tongue out, and I'll give you some liquid IV. Okay.
All this to say, maybe Highlander should be a little bit more favorably reviewed. Not great. Still a bad movie.
Yeah, I'd give it like 5 or 10.
It should at least have the same score as Rectuma.
What is that score?
I think it's like a 45.
That's super high for what you described to me. Maybe it's hilarious. Maybe it's just so
critics
ridiculous.
did not even bother rating it, but
It's like 2 people and the aggregate score from. Okay, anyway.
anyway, moving on. What other movies we got?
I'm a huge fan of Wes Anderson, and his last, I want to say 2 releases have been, let's just say, complicated for me. I liked exploring them. I don't think they're his best work by far, but this movie that I'm about to mention is not one of my favorites, but I was shocked to see, because when I started looking for films, I went to my favorite directors first to see if they had any critical bombs with the critics, at least, because he's not a big ticket seller. He's very niche. A lot of people who would say, I don't know, go out of their way to drink kombucha, they're the people who you're going to be sitting next to at a Wes Anderson film. So The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, the only Bill Murray led Wes Anderson film, has a 57 critic score.
Really?
On Rotten Tomatoes. I was really shocked to see that. It's again, not my favorite, but it's not like the worst one.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's not my favorite either, although it does probably have one of my favorite line deliveries.
Who delivers the line?
It's like that accountant or whatever that they like kind of Shanghai into being part of their crew.
Oh, yeah.
And so was it Jeff Goldblum's character? Mm-hmm. They rescue him and they're looking around. He's like, all this stuff is mine. It's like, oh, yeah, we stole it.
Yeah, I remember that. The soundtrack is this guy who sings all these Ziggy Stardust era David Bowie songs in, I believe, Portuguese on an acoustic guitar. And sometimes it's diegetic, like he just plays the song in the film. And he recorded like an album's worth of these songs for the soundtrack. I don't know who thought of this, but it suits it perfectly. And they do use a few actual David Bowie songs too, mixed in there. It doesn't feel like that should fit or work at all, but it does, and it just sets the mood and tone for this. And then I think Mark Mothersbaugh does the the weird kind of techno-y music that's in between like the score stuff. So that was like, again, you wouldn't think that it would work at all. That's also diegetic, because when they go underwater, they're like, these also pipe in music or whatever, and it's that weird like do 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 do. I think Mark Mothersbaugh is like one of the most underrated, or like least, I guess people in the industry probably know him, but if you say it to some guy on the street, they're gonna be like, please stop talking to me and walk away, or at least that's generally what I get when I go out on the street and talk to people about Mark Mothersbaugh. Either you do this? Okay. Anyway, just me.
I don't generally go out and talk to anyone.
Okay. Well, don't. Because people suck and they don't know who Mark Mothersbaugh is, and I'm sick of this shit. Anyway, 57? That's low.
What's the audience on it?
I screenshotted that, and it didn't have it, so let me look for it. Oh, wait, here I am. Cut all this out, and Rotten Tomatoes website sucks too. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that. You got to go back up to the top to hit next.
I'm going to say, like, I don't usually follow Rotten Tomatoes scores anyway, except for doing this episode.
I don't know why that became the standard, but I guess because it's an aggregate of, out of 225 reviews, it has 57. So, I don't know. The audience score is 82.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that's about fair.
Yeah.
Like, a low B. I think that's fair for this movie. I've seen it several times. I actually really, I think I forget how much I like it until I'm in it. It's got, like, a lot of stop motion animation, which is weird and disjointed. It does not feel like an experiment. It's, Wes Anderson, still just fuck being Wes Anderson. Anyway, I was shocked by that when I saw that and thought, though, that's definitely going on the list. Especially considering some of the high score that Isle of Dogs got, which was 90%. And I feel like I would borderline trade those two scores if I had to. But the Royal Tenenbaums has 81%. The Isle of Dogs has a higher score than Royal Tenenbaums, which I feel like is actually like a modern classic.
Yeah.
The Royal Tenenbaums is one of those ones, like, it never gets old to me for some reason. Like, I could watch it all the time, or at least once a year, and it just feels like going home. Like, it's just a comfortable movie. There's nothing like so impactful. It's just comforting for some reason. I think it might be Allison's favorite movie of all time. I don't understand these score ratings, the aggregate. Like, who are they getting? It should be, I don't know. I hate.
What are these critics' credentials?
I think
I wanna know.
you're somehow doing this to me, to break me in some way and make me think about Rotten Tomatoes too much. All right. Did you have anything else?
Yeah, I got one more.
Okay.
Since we're doing all right on time. I hesitate to do this one because I kind of get it. But it's Jim Jarmusch's The Dead Don't Die. And it's because this is one of those, you either get it and you like it, or you absolutely don't get it and you hate it. Because if you're expecting your traditional zombie movie, this ain't it. This is making fun of that. And so every weird decision is an amalgamation of every weird zombie movie. And I know a lot of people criticize the ending because it kind of doesn't have one. But to me, I think that makes it the perfect ending, because any zombie movie you watch, it's like, yeah, the movie ends, but the situation they're in does not end. So it's like, this ain't really an ending.
Yeah.
So
I mean, because it's the end of the world. Like, whatever, if it's, most of them at least really feel that way, except for the greatest zombie movie of all time.
Which one would that be?
Which one do you think it is?
I've watched a lot of movies. I got to go through that Rolodex.
Well, which one's the best zombie film?
Not a Living Dead.
Okay, that's a fair one, but now I'm blank, and now you're making me look. Damn it. Moving on. I will think of it.
It's like, great. Now I can't think of any other zombie movie. I'm like, that one don't end because it's got multiple sequels.
Yeah, they just keep going. But what is it's the end of the world as they have known it, because this keep happening. It's Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
By the incomparable Edgar Wright, who
Yes.
made that when he was a wee lad.
And kind of mad at myself that didn't come to mind.
That's actually a weird when I'm looking at it now. 92 and 93, not 1 point higher for the audience score. That they actually kind of win. And it's like, yes, it has irrevocably altered the world at the end of the movie, but it's like they found a way to make it work.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But he addresses the ludicrousness of this happening in the real world. Like, what would that be like? Here's one alternative, and that's kind of a happy ending. So yeah, I did not see The Dead Don't Die, so I can't really comment on that or criticize it in any way.
Yeah, it's one of those, it's like, if you go into it with the understanding that it is satire and that this is a criticism of all the weird tropes in zombie movies, then the movie makes a lot more sense. But if you don't go in with that mindset, this movie makes no sense and it's completely stupid. So it's more about what headspace you're in when you watch the movie. I think given that, maybe deserves a little higher, just because you got to set expectations.
That's fair.
And that's probably fair for all these movies. You got to set expectations.
Yeah. If you're gonna sit down for Highlander 2, take some drugs.
I did it so.
That's a mistake. There was a few things that, I really don't know. One of the things that had a fairly low, it's actually got a lower audience score and pretty low. It's only 4 points difference. Probably going to focus on this because it is a weird one, but it's actually Heath Ledger's real final film that he was working on. It was famously, he had just released The Dark Knight, so he had done The Joker, but the actual last film that he was working on was, and it took a while to get it out, was The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, which is like a weird indie, like crazy fantasy romp where somebody maybe makes a deal with the devil and there's a lot of surreal images and nothing's fully explained and everything's weird and crazy. Yeah, again, I believe this was also Terry Gilliam, so let me double check that just...
Yeah, I was going to say, this is one of those that we're kind of opposite on because I have not seen this one.
Oh.
It's one that I had wanted to see.
I'm surprised, actually.
But never got around to.
Let me tell you, I hate Rotten Tomatoes. Like, the site is...
Especially if you're trying to navigate mobile.
Yeah, for real. Carry on.
I was going to say, this movie does look like one of those that I can see a lot of people complaining about just because of attention spans nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a psychedelic, weird film that's also indie. It doesn't have the special effects problem that you were talking about with some of the other ones because the things that they do suit it so perfectly. And it probably doesn't have a satisfying enough ending for people because it's kind of weird and open-ended. But I enjoyed it, again, for what it was. I was just shocked to see that it was so low. And also, I could see it being one of those films easily, where critics give it a super high score, and then the mass audience, which it did not get a mass audience release, go into it and are like, what the f*** was that? And it's for, like, I don't know, intellectuals or people who like weird indie cult movies, but the critics give it a high score. But it's weird because the critics and the audience score both gave it a very similar low number, 60 and 64 respectively. So I thought that was odd, and I thought it was worth a mention on here to round this out.
Yeah, I have to get around to watching that.
Yeah, I have it somewhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we could wrap up here.
Yeah.
If you don't have any more.
Nah.
Because I could probably keep going because I have been told that I notoriously
like bad movies by your wife Sarah specifically, right?
Yeah, usually. Because it's like, why is this such a low score? I like the movie. They're like, you would. All that being said, maybe not listen to Rotten Tomatoes. How about going to listen to our reviews instead?
Yeah. Subscribe, post a link to this video on your Instagram, Facebook, Threads, Twitter, Blue Sky, whatever. Just get us out there. Show people that you have good taste in bad movies.
And again, if you could help us get to 3-digit subscriber count and 100 likes on this episode, we will watch bad
Tyler
movies.
will watch that movie that he talked about with that guy's fat ass. I'll watch him watch it. I, of course, can't keep my eyes on the screen. I have to, I drip his
double reaction video. I'll react to the movie. You react to me.
Yeah, I'll be reacting to your reactions.
Do like a meta react.
Yeah, I'll wear a white coat and everything.
Anyway, if you made it with us this far, thank you. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe. Follow us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. We'll leave links in the description below. Until next time, see ya.